Greetings to everybody. I am Dr. Meghna Vik, and today we shall study the meaning of the term nationalism, bonds that create a nation state, types of nationalist movements, nationalism in Germany and Italy, the meaning of allegory with special reference to Germania and Marianne, the strange case of Britain, and nationalism and imperialism with a case study of the Balkans. All these subtopics are a part of The Rise of Nationalism in Europe, Chapter 1 of Class 10th History book. Nationalism is the belief that one's greatest loyalty should not be to a king or an empire, but to a nation of people who share a common culture and history. When the nation also had its own independent government, it became a nation state. Bonds that create a nation state. Nationality. A belief in a common ethnic ancestry, real or imagined. Language. Different dialects of one language. One dialect chosen as a national language. Culture. A shared way of life. Example, food, dress, behavior, and ideals. History. A common past, common experiences, real or imagined. Religion. A religion shared by all or most of the people. Territory. A certain territory that belongs to the ethnic groups. Its land. Types of nationalist movements. Number 1. Unification. Mergers of politically divided but culturally similar lands. Example, 19th century Germany and 19th century Italy. Number 2. Separation. Culturally distinct group resists being added to a state or tries to break away. Example, Greeks in the Ottoman Empire and the French-speaking Canadians. Number 3. State building. Culturally distinct groups form into new state by accepting a single culture. Example, the United States, Turkey, etc. Nationalism, a force for unity, case study, Germany. Following the Congress of Vienna, 39 German states formed the German Confederation. Austro-Hungarian Empire and Prussia dominated the Confederation. Please look at this map carefully. Leaders of the unification process in Germany. The first was King Wilhelm I, King of Prussia. He succeeded Frederick William to the throne in 1861. He supported the Junkers and in turn helped them out. Junkers was wealthy landowning class, strongly conservative and opposed to liberal ideas. The second leader was Otto von Bismarck. He was a conservative Junker. He became the Prime Minister of Prussia in 1862. After 1848, nationalism in Europe moved away from its association with democracy and revolution. Nationalist sentiments were often mobilized by conservatives for promoting state power and achieving political domination over Europe. This can be observed in the process by which Germany and Italy came to be unified as nation states. In Germany, Prussia took on the leadership of the movement for national unification. Its chief minister, Otto von Bismarck, was the architect of this process, carried out with the help of the Prussian army and bureaucracy. Three wars over 7 years with Austria, Denmark, and France ended in Prussian victory and completed the process of unification. In January 1871, the Prussian King William I was proclaimed German Emperor in a ceremony held at Versailles. Nationalism, a force for unity. Case study, Italy. Like Germany, Italy too had a long history of political fragmentation. Italians were scattered over dynastic states as well as the multinational Habsburg Empire. During the middle of the 19th century, Italy was divided into 7 states, of which only one, Sardinia Piedmont, was ruled by an Italian princely house. The north was under Austrian Habsburgs, the center was ruled by the Pope, and the southern regions were under the domination of the Bourbon kings of Spain. Even the Italian language had not acquired one common form and still had many regional and local variations. Leaders of Italian unification: Mazzini, Garibaldi, and Cavour. During the 1830s, Mazzini had sought to put together a coherent program for a unitary Italian republic. He had also formed a secret society called Young Italy for the dissemination of his goals. Garibaldi was perhaps the most celebrated of Italian freedom fighters. In 1854, he supported Victor Emmanuel II in his efforts to unify the Italian states. In 1860, Garibaldi led the famous expedition of the Thousand to South Italy. Cavour was the chief minister who led the movement to unify the regions of Italy. He was neither a revolutionary nor a democrat. Like many other wealthy and educated members of the Italian elite, he spoke French much better than he did Italian. Italy too had a long history of political fragmentation. During the 1830s, Mazzini had sought to put together a coherent program for a unitary Italian republic. But the failure of the revolutionary uprisings both in 1831 and 1848 meant that the mantle now fell upon Sardinia Piedmont under its ruler Victor Emmanuel II to unify the Italian states through war. In the eyes of the ruling elites of this region, a unified Italy offered them the possibility of economic development and political dominance. Chief Minister Cavour, who led the movement to unify the regions of Italy, was neither a revolutionary nor a democrat. Through a tactful diplomatic alliance with France engineered by Cavour, Sardinia Piedmont succeeded in defeating the Austrian forces in 1859. A large number of armed volunteers under the leadership of Garibaldi joined the fray. In 1860, they marched into South Italy and the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies and succeeded in winning the support of the local peasants in order to drive out the Spanish rulers. In 1861, Victor Emmanuel II was proclaimed the King of Unified Italy. However, much of the Italian population remained unaware of the liberal nationalist ideology. The peasant masses who had never heard of Italia believed that the La Talia was Victor Emmanuel's wife. In Britain, the formation of the nation-state was the result of a long drawn-out process. There was no British nation prior to the 18th century. The primary identities of the people who inhabited the British Isles were ethnic ones, such as English, Welsh, Scot or Irish. The Act of Union in 1707 between England and Scotland resulted in the formation of the United Kingdom of Great Britain. Here, England was able to impose its influence on Scotland. Ireland suffered a similar fate. It was a country deeply divided between Catholics and Protestants. After a failed revolt led by Wolfe Tone and his United Irishmen in 1798, Ireland was forcibly incorporated into the United Kingdom in 1801. Visualizing the nation. While it is easy enough to represent a ruler through a portrait or a statue, how does one go about giving a face to a nation? Artists in the 18th and 19th centuries found a way out by personifying a nation. Female allegories were invented by artists in the 19th century to represent the nation. In France, she was christened Marianne, a popular Christian name, which underlined the idea of a people's nation. Her characteristics were drawn from those of liberty and the republic: the red cap, the tricolour, and the cockade. Statues of Marianne were erected in public squares to remind the public of the national symbol of unity and to persuade them to identify with it. Marianne images were marked on coins and stamps. Similarly, Germania became the allegory of the German nation. In visual representations, Germania wears a crown of oak leaves, as the German oak stands for heroism. The most serious source of nationalist tension in Europe after 1871 was the area called the Balkans. The Balkans was a region of geographical and ethnic variation comprising modern-day Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Greece, Macedonia, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Slovenia, Serbia, and Montenegro. A large part of the Balkans was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. The spread of the ideas of romantic nationalism in the Balkans, together with the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire, made this region very explosive. One by one, its European subject nationalities broke away from its control and declared independence. As the different Slavic nationalities struggled to define their identity and independence, the Balkan area became an area of intense conflict. The Balkan states were fiercely jealous of each other, and each hoped to gain more territory at the expense of the others. Matters were further complicated because the Balkans also became the scene of big power rivalry. These rivalries were very evident in the way the Balkan problem unfolded. Each power, Russia, Germany, England, Austro-Hungary, was keen on countering the hold of other powers over the Balkans and extending its own control over the area. This led to a series of wars in the region and finally the First World War. Conclusion: European ideas of nationalism were nowhere replicated, for people everywhere developed their own specific variety of nationalism. But the idea that societies should be organized into nation states came to be accepted as natural and universal. That ends our chapter. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.